May these proceedings, please, in the next minute or two, not be live streamed? Can it be removed from the live stream? What is about to occur must not be live streamed. Yes, right. We're ready, I think. Well,
Yes.
No, I better wait to make sure.
Yes, we are.
We are ready. Good. Sorry, we are ready now. We're going to resume. Mr. Barr.
Thank you, sir. Can we have tab C243? It's an MPS number 301219. This is the 28th of July 1998, an intelligence report. It's about preparations for the Blair Peach 20th anniversary march. If we could have the text expanded, please.
Okay.
In your experience, were local trades unions associated with disorder?
No, I didn't have any experience of that, no.
Were Blair Peach marchers associated with disorder?
No.
The end of the first paragraph states that the rally and demonstration will be presented with a strong anti-racist, anti-police flavour. Anti-police flavour because this campaign arises from the death of Blair Peach at the hands of police.
Correct.
Was there any disorder at this event?
I don't know. I don't know that. I didn't attend myself. This is information I picked up via the centre.
The source comment, the event will inevitably attract a large left-wing presence with particular accent and anti-police type groups, and the potential for disorder will be significant. Given that local trade unions were organising the rally, and given that it was an event to remember Mr. Peach, wasn't the position that it was always likely to be a dignified and orderly event?
That was the hope, certainly. As I alluded to in that comment there, you know, the anti-police type, obviously we discussed that yesterday, but because of the circumstances of this particular event, were there to be a large police presence, that may be construed as being provocative.
The words that you used aren't qualified by anything to do with the police reaction. They go on, they say the potential for disorder will be significant. What I would like to explore with you is on what basis could you report that the potential for disorder would be significant?
On the basis that I've just said, in my opinion at that time, so I never went to this particular event, but given the feelings around this and any other issues regarding the deaths in police custody or deaths caused by police, this is probably one of the most famous. For the reasons that I've said there, there's potential for disorder if they're seen to confront the police. So, yes, the inference being if they're being softly by the police, or if the police were seen to be heavy-handed, then yes, the potential would be significant, in my opinion.
Were you perhaps being unduly pessimistic about the risk of public disorder?
Well, you could, yes, I wouldn't dispute that. Yes, I was, but with good reason. I don't want my police colleagues getting injured.
Could we take that down now, please? And could we have up from tab B45, 749473, please? Page 19. If we could have that expanded. It's a strategy meeting with you, dated July 1998, bearing the initials of Bob Lambert, Noel Waugh, and Bernard Greene at the bottom. It says at the start, in July 1998, Touchy Subject was invited by Harold, the leader of Red Action, to join the actual organisation, as opposed to being active through AFA. This invitation to join RA has far-reaching implications as far as his current targeting strategy is concerned. Firstly, the variety of Irish support groups that TS has involved himself with, such as IRSP, RF and RSF, will, for the time being, have to wither on the vine. Bearing in mind the current turmoil that these groups are in, it is perhaps no bad thing that other more important factors are beginning to play a part. This reads as if it was a big deal. Is that right?
Reading it, yes. So no, I didn't have any input into this, but yes, reading it, it does look it, yeah.
And was it a big deal?
I think on paper it would have been. I mean, I'd been around Red Action for, a couple of years then, but then to be asked to actually join the organisation was seen as a step up, and I suppose it would give me greater access, but yeah, that's all it was, really.
How easy was it to secure an invitation to join Red Action?
You didn't. You were just asked.
And how easy was it to get to that stage where you were asked?
Well, I think you have to. Obviously, you have to be a trusted contact. You have to measure up to the stereotypical type of person that they were looking at. I'd been active in AFA, and I was considered trustworthy. I think that was to be fair to say. So it was quite flattering. I wasn't expecting this, and it didn't really affect my strategy as such. But yes, it put me onto a slightly more intimate level with the leadership of the organisation.
Could you have got into Red Action more quickly if you had wanted to?
No.
Could you have got into Red Action through different routes?
No. Not the routes that were available to me, no.
Alison's evidence was that when you told her that you had joined Red Action, you told her that it was because you want to see the whole picture. Did you say that to her?
I might have done.
And why did you accept the invitation to join Red Action?
Well, it was, like I said, it was a step up into the sort of inner circle, as it were, of the organisation, whereas I was sort of outside of that up to that point. And also it was a measure of their trust in me as well.
And what was, you made clear you weren't involved in the generation of this document, but what was the reaction of your managers to the invitation when you told them about it?
Well, I think you can see by the language used here, they thought it was really good news. I don't think anyone previously had got to that level in that particular organisation. So yes, they were obviously quite pleased with that.
It goes on to say, certainly Red Action will continue to play an active part in their support of Pyra Inla, although to what extent the current crop of members will involve themselves is unclear. It is interesting to note that TS is now occupying the mantle of office once worn by Pat Hayes, who is currently serving life imprisonment for causing explosions on the mainland, possession of Semtex, possession of firearms. Can I take it in the light of your example, your evidence yesterday, that to suggest that Red Action was in July 1998 playing an active part in their support of Pyra and Inla was overstating the matter?
I think in that case, yes, it was overstating the matter, yeah, definitely.
And Pyra and Inla share the fact that they're both prescribed organisations, but they are different organisations, aren't they?
The Irish Republicans, yes, but different, separate organisations.
Significantly different.
Yes, politically they were, but they were after the same aim, and obviously Red Action had members in both of those camps.
Thank you. Then if we go down to the next paragraph, With the current position regarding the ceasefire unclear, TS, through sheer hard work and professional endeavour, has neatly positioned himself with an organisation that can best be described as a terrorist support group. Although contenders to offer themselves as active service people may be few, as a group they have any number of people who can offer and supply terrific logistical support for any ASU. Again, with reference to your evidence yesterday, would it be fair to say that this is overstating the position as of July 1998?
I think so, yes. I think it was overstating it, but obviously the whole issue around the terrorist support group would obviously refer to the members having been arrested previously. That was where that would emanate from, I would imagine.
In your experience, was Mr. Lambert given to exaggerating the significance of SDS intelligence?
Not specifically. This hasn't got... I don't know. I couldn't tell you who wrote this, but I think the managers, it was all in all of their interests when they're doing roundup reports like this, is to make them sound as significantly important as they could, because obviously they had their own chain of command to impress.
Could we take that document down now, please? And can we have up from tab B51 247717, please? This is another visit to the unit by Assistant Commissioner Special Operations David Vaness. This time a visit on the 7th of July 1998. That page talks about some of the timings, says that the meeting was envisaged to last about 1.5 hours, with the ACSO having a chat with groups of 3 field officers at a time, and then he would have the opportunity to address them all and hopefully present a UCO who we are not going to identify with an award. You were at this event?
Yes.
Can you help us with what you said to the ACSO about your deployment?
We were instructed really just to give him an oversight into the access we had, the groups that we were involved in. It was just all very general stuff, because it was all stage managed. He just wanted to know where we were, and I think there was probably, although I don't know, a pre-meeting with management saying that this person's doing this person's doing that. We were just asked to sort of fill in the gaps there, answer any questions he had regarding our particular deployment.
Can I take it from that answer that you would have made clear that you were infiltrating community-based groups?
Yes, probably, yes. No, that's fair. I can't remember it, but yeah, likely I would have done, yes.
AFA?
Yes.
Red Action?
Yes.
Would you have told him you'd been arrested in the course of your duty?
Not specifically, no.
Did you say anything to him about your accommodation?
No.
About your relationship with Alison?
No.
Why didn't you tell him about your relationship with Alison?
It wasn't relevant. He was looking at specifically the fields that individual officers were covering.
Is it something that you felt would amount to a disclosure of wrongdoing?
Not at all, no. It wasn't relevant to... He was there purely to see what areas we were covering.
Can I take it from that answer that you think there is no reason whatsoever why he should not have known about your relationship with Alison?
If I'd have told him, no, not at all. Of course not. He didn't ask me about that.
And did you say anything about the lifestyle that you were living undercover?
No.
What did he ask you?
I can't remember. It would have been in relation to the groups, just general sort of matters around, how long I'd been there, etc. There was nothing in detail. It was very peripheral, really. He was there just to meet and greet, and it was a bit of a morale-boosting visit, as I understood it. But it's all very general terms in terms of our individual deployment.
Did he ask you anything about how you were conducting yourself undercover?
No.
Can we take that document down now, please? Can we have up C248, MPS 301391? This is a report dated the 12th of October 1998. If we could have the text enlarged, please, and I'll let you take a moment to absorb the content.
Okay, yeah.
Is this an accurate summary of your intelligence?
Yes, I think it'd be fair to say yes.
Does it reflect your view of the matter?
Yes, it does in general terms, yeah.
This appears to be portraying the Newham monitoring project as seeking to draw fascists onto the street. Would that be the wrong impression to create?
Not at all. I think the Newham monitoring project were very well tied into their local community, and they would have been aware of the Kosovan refugee issue and the potential therefore, and there must have been publicity around it, for potential right-wing involvement, and so they needed to get in there and offer to protect the immigrants in whatever way they needed to.
What I'm driving at is it's one thing for the NMP to be concerned about fascist intimidation of refugees and to be seeking to support those refugees. It's quite another for them to be trying to draw the fascists out onto the street.
No, I wouldn't. That's certainly not within the remit of the new monitoring project. It's Red Action, certainly.
And weren't the left generally pleased that the far right were not currently active?
I think, well, yes, definitely. The general left, of course they were, yeah.
And so why would they be looking for opportunities to draw them back out onto the street?
Well, from a Red Action point of view, I think that they felt that this, because of the spin that was put on this, said here, the influx of various refugees, that's an issue that the right wing would immediately pick up on and potentially bring them out to confront them. That was the fear.
Are you effectively saying that this report, instead of saying various left-wing and anti-fascist groups in the first two lines, and then referring to NMP later on, really ought to have said Red Action, we're looking for opportunities to draw fascists onto the street?
I think the various left-wing groups, which I wouldn't call the NMP that, but you're looking at there were other anti-fascist groups outside of Red Action. So that was, in my estimation, yes, that would be entirely consistent with what they'd want to do.
And which groups did you have actual intelligence to the effect that they wanted to provoke the fascists onto the streets?
From Red Action's point of view, clearly, any information about the new monitoring project would have come directly from Mark Metcalf, who was connected with them. I had no direct contact with them.
But you're aware of what sort of group the NMP is,
yes,
aren't you?
Yeah.
Because isn't the difficulty with this report is you appear to be inflating perhaps the aspirations or objectives of particular people within Red Action and attributing them to a much wider group of left-wing bodies and anti-fascist groups?
No, I don't think that is the case, no. I mean, by definition, that it's an opportunity that obviously AFA would use, but also you've got other groups, for Militant Labour, the Anti-Nazi League, etc., all like-minded individuals.
Can we take that down now, please? Can we have tab C250, MPS 301422? This is an intelligence report based on information dated at the 19th of October 1998. The title is self-explanatory. Final meeting of the CRC. If you could expand the text, please.
Okay, yeah.
Is it accurate that the CRC was wound up at this time?
Yes, I mean, I recognise that report.
And it was no more after that?
Effectively, yes.
And does it follow that you follow logically that you didn't report on the CRC after this?
Not as a group. I don't think I would have done. Obviously, I think it stayed later there that there were sort of people there who were still involved in various issues. Anything out beyond that would have come from Metcalfe, but I don't think I had any direct involvement with the organisation itself, no.
So any previous statements you've made to the effect that you continued to report on the CRC throughout your deployment would be inaccurate?
As an organisation, yes, it would, yeah.
How would you describe your targeting for the remaining 18 months of your deployment?
I think I moved away from Mark Metcalfe as a specific target. I would obviously move towards the AFA Red Action part of things, but I was still part of that community in Hackney, and I still had good relations with Mark Metcalfe. So if anything was going on in that particular area, we'd meet up in a pub. I'd see the bloke every week. So yeah, I'd get filled in with that. So my contact with them was really through whatever he was feeding me.
Can I now ask you to direct your attention to the last sentence of the first paragraph? Any profits from this book will be donated to a suitably worthy cause, such as the Stephen Lawrence campaign or some other anti-police, anti-racist initiative. Now, we heard from you yesterday about anti-police campaigns, and you said that the Stephen Lawrence campaign fell within that definition.
In general terms, yeah.
What has changed between the matters I was asking you about yesterday and the 15th of October 1998 is that on the 1st of October 1998, Lord Condon had expressed deep regret and apologised to the Lawrences for failing to bring Stephen's racist murderers to justice.
Okay.
Were you aware of that?
I can't remember being made aware of it through the SDS, whether it was mentioned here or not. I honestly can't remember. I would have picked it up myself, probably on the news or whatever, because it was a newsworthy story. But no, it wasn't discussed as I remember, no.
As you say, it was a newsworthy story. Yeah. Why is it that even after the Commissioner has personally apologised to the Lawrences for police failings, are you still describing the Stephen Lawrence campaign as anti-police?
It's just a generic expression, that's all. There is no particular reason for that.
The mindset?
What, my mindset?
Yes.
No, I wouldn't have even given it that depth of thought in relation to that. It was just a way of grouping it together in a report.
That is, I think, the point I'm putting to you. Your mindset that these were anti-police campaigns and you didn't think any further about it.
No, wouldn't have given it a second thought, quite honestly, no.
Can we take that down now, please? AFA Opportunist Hits, tab C 251, MPS 301506. 5th of November 1998, a report about AFA based on your intelligence. If we could have the first two paragraphs, please. Following AFA's successful location of the BMP redirection point in Walthamstow 2 weeks ago, Clive and the AFA leadership are concerned about the growing divisions within South London, which could jeopardise future actions. And then if we look at the second paragraph, AFA's intelligence network is working well and the information about the right wing is accurate and generally good. The problem is in using this information by way of direct action. At present, intelligence and opportunist hits are carried out by stewards from North and East London, together with privacy from South London, who handles the photographic side. To step this activity up into direct action, such as would have been the case in Walthamstow, South London, would have to be more deeply involved, but with the disaffection of Kurt and privacy, the only people in South London AFA now trusted by the leadership are privacy, privacy and privacy. In relation to the participation of stewards from North and East London in hits, were you personally involved in any of those hits?
No, and I think, again, this is another, it's only intelligence. The report has been written by somebody else. I think that is inaccurate. It would be carried out, not are. Had there been any, I would have known that because I was one of the stewards group, so and that didn't happen, no.
So no hits?
No, not at all.
Can we take that down now, please? C255 MPS 301575. We started 1998 in Dover and we're going to end 1998 in Dover. This is a 30th of November 1998 report about a planned National Front march on the 5th of December 1998. Can we have the first two paragraphs up, please? London AFA, as previously reported, will not be attending the NF March on the 5th of December 1998. However, a dissident strand of AFA, led by Kurt, will almost certainly attend Saturday's march. The group of stragglers he is likely to travel with will include elements from the Socialist Party away team and some Hunt Sabs. Did you go to Dover as one of the group of stragglers?
No.
If we look at the source comment, I'll give you a moment to read that.
Okay, yeah.
There are some quite specific details there, aren't there?
Yes.
Where did you get those
I
from?
would have got them from Kurt.
And the intelligence that the tactic would be to pick off right-wing stragglers, was that something that was expressly stated to you?
Well, I can't say it was expressly stated, but that's what the obvious tactics were. They always were.
Can you help us more generally with the away team? And we can take that document down now. What experience did you have of the away team?
You were talking about the militant
Yes.
Labour. Obviously, I knew they existed. I also knew that Peter Francis was reporting on some of this stuff as well. But from an AFA point of view, they tend to recruit mostly people directly into AFA, but when there was a necessity to get a call out of trusted members, there would be people from the likes of say even the Anti-Nazi League, or certainly the away team, the direct action movement, but all these different, but they would be people who were specifically trusted and were able to handle themselves in a fight, and they were the ones that were called on. So I'd be familiar with certain names from different groups.
Well, let's have a look first of all at Frank Smith. Could we look at C267 MPS 301983? This is a report based on your intelligence about Mr. Frank Smith, dated the 14th of April 1999. And if we could have the first four. In fact, if we can have all the text expanded, thank you. I'll give you a moment to refresh your memory.
Okay, yeah.
Did you get to know Mr. Smith through his away team activities?
No.
Did you get to know him through your cover as a builder and your involvement in the activism of builders?
I wouldn't say I got to know him. I'm sure I met him in relation to building work things. That was obviously through Brian as well.
So how well did you know him?
I wouldn't say I knew him well. I knew of his reputation, certainly, but I didn't know him that well. I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say he was a regular contact by any means.
Were you knowingly on the same demonstrations as he was?
I don't know. I never saw him on a demonstration, but as I said earlier, he would have been one of those trusted people that AFA would like to co-op to, but I don't remember ever seeing him on one.
Ever in a fight with him?
Not that I recall, no.
Did you ever witness him involved in physical violence?
No, not personally.
In the penultimate paragraph, you say, although short in stature, Smith is extremely violent and short-tempered. On what basis, given the answers that you have just given me, did you report that Smith was extremely violent?
It would have been from other AFA members who knew him better than I did. That was the only basis it was. And obviously that particular trait would have been something that Red Action AFA would have been particularly interested in.
What had your Red Action and AFA associates told you about Mr. Frank Smith and violence?
That he wasn't the sort of bloke to back down. He'd been involved in anti-fascist activities for a number of years, and he was regarded as a solid, dependable street fighter.
Had they given any specific examples of Mr. Smith being violent?
No. It was purely reputational.
Why doesn't this report say that Mr. Smith had a reputation for violence, rather than asserting as fact that he is extremely violent?
I don't know. I didn't write the report.
It's based on your intelligence, isn't it?
It is, yes.
And it is not the job of those writing up the report to embellish the facts, is it?
You wouldn't have thought so, but in this case, no. I mean, all right, with hindsight, perhaps I should have made it crystal clear, but it was my impression based on my experience with the people who did know him. That was all.
We can take that down now. Are you able to help us at all with Mr. Dave Smith? Did you ever meet him in the course of your undercover operation?
Who was he involved with? Which group was it? I don't. The name I may have heard. I may have heard it latterly through this inquiry, but I can't think at the moment unless I know what he was involved in, what groups we may have crossed in. I don't know.
No recollection now.
No, I don't know.
Mr. Dan Gilman.
No.
Could we have up, please, from C264 MPS 301900? I'll give you a moment if we can have the text expanded to absorb the content of this report dated the 17th of March 1999.
Okay.
The second paragraph talks about the away team being believed to be responsible for attacks on members of the extreme right-wing groups in Walthamstow, London Bridge, and in Bromley. Do you have any knowledge of those attacks?
No, but I think looking at that, they would appear to be fairly historical, as far as I can make out. So like the London Bridge, that would have been the early 90s. I might be wrong, but yeah, it was a historical sort of list of activities that they've been involved in.
Can we take that down now, please? Could we have from tab B55, MPS 301680? This is a strategy meeting record from Thursday, the 14th of January 1999. And if we could have the text expanded, please. Give you a moment to absorb, first of all, the target groups paragraph.
Okay.
The impression being given is, so far as AFA is concerned, things are relatively quiet in terms of public disorder because the extreme right wing aren't very active. How quiet were things on the public order front?
From an AFA point of view, where you expected to directly confront fascism, obviously if there are no fascist presence around, it's going to be quiet. But because, as we said, there's a crossover between AFA and Red Action anyway. But there were certain events, but when we're looking, Bloody Sunday in particular was a focal point, but you're looking at across that period of 12 months relative to other years, yes, there hadn't been a lot of public activity, I don't think, as maybe in previous years.
Red Action are said, because of the peace process, to have concentrated their efforts on local politics via the I think it should say CA, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
To what extent were Red Action concentrating on politics as opposed to violence?
Well, as I mentioned yesterday, the IWCA, it mirrored the whole scene that was happening in Northern Ireland with Sinn Féin and the relationship with PIRA, albeit on a smaller scale. But they were still a violent Republican anti-fascist organisation, but they had a very clever and well thought out political strategy, which involved obviously building a grassroots movement, in local communities.
What I'm driving at, I mean, you've made clear your views about Red Action as an organisation, but what I'm driving at now is how much violence was actually occurring by this stage?
Public violence? I can't remember any, no.
Because it appears that by this stage in your deployment, Colin Roach Centre is defunct. AFA and Red Action aren't out on the street attacking fascists because there's not very much street violence going on. And Red Action are instead, in the light of the ongoing peace process, concentrating on their political activities via the IWCA. Was any thought given to reviewing whether or not your ongoing deployment was still justified?
Not at all, no.
And does that answer apply to both you and your managers?
Yes, yeah, completely. There was still a Republican threat, remember?
And by that, am I right to understand that you are essentially communicating to me that the possibility that you might come across some useful intelligence was enough to justify your ongoing deployment?
I say solely justify it, but at that time, as it was mentioned here, with the connection with Republican Forum, I had both aspects of republicanism covered. Now, I'm not expected to go and find, a Republican plot or a terrorist plot, but I'd be in a position to either look at any other intelligence from different agencies and react. I'd be in a position on the ground to respond to that. So that was considered important, and I thought it was important as well.
Was there any other justification for your ongoing deployment by this stage?
Are you asking me personally, or is it the organisation?
First of all, your own view.
No, I think that was the primary view at this particular stage, yes. But I still had the public, there was still, because there were no fascists there were still public order issues that I could still cover, yeah.
Did your managers share your view, or did they have a different view?
Well, as far as I know, they shared my view. If they didn't, they certainly didn't mention it to me.
Can we look at the withdrawal section now? Thank you. We agreed that February-March 2000 will be the date to work towards withdrawal, and that's effectively in line with the document we looked at a little while ago when your deployment was extended by a year.
Correct, yeah.
Touchy subject had no specific plans at this stage, but general ideas followed the theme, and that has been, the details are redacted out. When did you start specific planning?
Probably it was sometime during 1999. I don't know specifically when, but it's something that I always had to have in mind and devise some sort of a strategy to extricate myself. It would take a long time to do, given the number of contacts and the various groups that I had access to in order to effect that.
It says under the summary at the bottom of the page that you were to start planning for withdrawal with a more specific outline in June, July. I don't want details, but did you produce a more specific outline or work with your managers to that end for the summer?
I don't know. I've not seen that before. No, I don't remember the summer being a particularly significant date.
So again, without giving any details, what were you thinking when deciding how you would withdraw?
I think at this stage, the world had changed. I mean, in real terms, in the time that I'd been out, previous deployment officers had various withdrawal strategies. The majority involved moving abroad and then sending postcards back and basically fading out into the thing. But of course, by this time, you've got the advent of the internet. Suddenly the world is a lot smaller place now with mobile phones. There were very few places, I think, that you could go. So I had to be a little bit more careful about how I was going to affect this. But I think there was a part of me, certainly, that as we rolled into 1999, I thought, there's no way that people are going to be disappearing, to work in wherever, on some, I don't know, elf farm in Timbuktu or whatever ridiculous thing that was. It's just not viable. And if a person disappears by this time, you're dead or you're not who you purport to be. And that was my concern at that stage.
Can we take that document down now, please? The Stephen Lawrence Inquiries Part 1 report was published on the 24th of February 1999. When did you get to hear about it?
I don't know what that is. What is that?
The Stephen Lawrence Inquiries report.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't take any particular interest in that. I would have picked up probably on the news media, but no, it wasn't a matter that concerned me. So
The finding of institutional racism within the Metropolitan Police.
not interested.
Was that not a talking point within the office?
I think, yeah, I mean, it was more, I think, the Paul Condon's comments. People weren't happy with that. But you know, that was, I don't know when that was in relation to this, but...
Which of the Commissioner's comments?
It was the
were
one about institutional racism. That was the one that I do remember people being unhappy about. But
who was unhappy?
I think we all were.
And why were you unhappy?
Because the inference being that everybody was a racist in the Met Police. That's what we, and here, which is absolutely ludicrous. Certainly in the SDS, I didn't know anybody who was in that. I mean, I would literally given blood in some cases fighting racism in that organisation, and it was a real insult.
Did anyone take any steps to explain to you the sense in which the phrase institutional racism had been used by Sir William Macpherson and his panel?
No.
Did anyone address you as to the findings that had been made and any change that was required within the Metropolitan Police Service?
Not at that stage, not in the SDS circles, no.
Did you take any steps to inform yourself as to what institutional racism meant?
No, not at all. I was very offended by it, actually, as were a lot of people. So that was my view on it. I wasn't going to explore it. The Commissioner thinks that, then that's down to him. But that doesn't include me.
Did any of your colleagues, to your knowledge, dig any deeper?
No, it wasn't within our remit within the SDS. This was happening in the wider police force. Obviously, it would have affected us as police officers, but no, we weren't in a position to moan and groan about all of that. We were too wrapped up in our own world.
Did anyone ask any questions as to how it had come to pass that these findings had been made in the context of the investigation of Stephen's murder?
No, they didn't.
Can we have up now tab C261, MPS 301843? This is a report attributed to you, 1st of March 1999. If we could have the text expanded, please. I'll give you a moment to read it, but it's the third paragraph that I'm most interested in.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Metcalfe, keen to promote his own expertise in policing issues in the wake of the Lawrence case. How did you get that intelligence?
From Mark Metcalfe.
And what did you mean by in the wake of the Lawrence case?
Well, all the issues that have been in the media, and obviously I think this is after the inquiry and all the other aspects to it. Yes, it was a high-profile case, and that's what he wanted to sort of emphasise that with this. The Menson case, which I don't know what that is.
Is that a reference, in the wake of the Lawrence case, a reference to the finding of institutional racism?
I don't think that, not specifically, that wasn't my impression. It was the whole issue from start to finish, the investigation of, or the lack of a proper investigation by the Met Police.
The full panoply of police failings.
I think that's fair to say, yeah.
Goes on, he was involved in the Menson case at its outset and wants to capitalise on this with the hope of causing further embarrassment to the Metropolitan Police. What was your understanding of Mr. Metcalfe's involvement in the Menson case?
I don't actually remember what the Menson case is. I was referred to it here. I don't remember what that is.
What did you mean by wants to capitalise on it?
Well, if this was a case where, I don't know if it's a death in custody or whatever it is, I'm not sure. Obviously, there's an opportunity there for him to be the standard bearer and really give the Met Police a kick in on the back of what they'd already experienced with the Stephen Lawrence inquiry. It was open season, I think. That was my impression from what he was saying on attacking the reputation of the Met Police.
So, in your mind, just another anti-police campaign
Pretty much, yeah.
being exploited for political ends.
That was my impression of it, yes.
Can I see if I can jog your memory? Mr. Manson was found on the streets with very severe burns caused by an accelerant. It turned out, after a failed investigation influenced by racism and a second investigation, that he had in fact been murdered. And ultimately the murderers were convicted, one in this country and the other in a groundbreaking trial in northern Cyprus. Does that ring any bells?
In general terms, do you know if this took place in Hackney?
It was in North London.
Okay. Yes, well, that's entirely consistent with what I've said.
But not really the way you were viewing it. You were viewing it simply as an anti-police campaign.
Well, in terms, yes, because I imagine that the inference was that the investigation into the Manson death was negligence on behalf of the police, or at least that was the spin that was put on it by him to me.
And subsequently found to be the case.
Okay.
Stephen, murdered by racists. Investigation had many very serious failings and was tainted by institutional racism. In a sense, these are embarrassments to the Metropolitan Police, but aren't they really better characterised as a woeful policing service that needed improving?
Well, I would contest that. There certainly were improvements because there were issues that went wrong there. But to completely label the entire Metropolitan Police staff by its own commissioner as being institutionally racist is an outrageous slur on the vast majority of police officers who are hard-working, conscientious, and certainly weren't racist.
Can we see the last paragraph? Whilst there is no question of the Colin Roach Centre being reopened, Metcalfe wants to involve himself with issues that interest him, and he is calling on ex-CRC members for support. So you are signalling that he may be getting a group together to support the Mansons and others who wish to seek police accountability.
I think so. I think getting a group together is probably not. It would be certain individuals who had previous experience at the Colin Roach Centre in dealing with the police complaints, etc. That's what I took from that to mean.
Sorry, no.
No, that's it. That's what I was going to say.
And you are going to continue reporting on all of that to the best of your ability?
As long as Mark Metcalfe was talking to me about what he was doing, yes, I was going to report on that.
No acceptance that police accountability campaigns were entirely legitimate and there were indeed very serious police failings.
I don't doubt that, but it wasn't my job to filter what was and wasn't relevant.
Can we take that down now, please? Can we have from tab C262, MPS 301844. This is a report dated the 1st of March 99. If we could have the text expanded. Give you a moment to refresh your memory.
Okay, yep.
So this is a report on an elected politician from the Labour Party.
Yes, it appears so.
And it says, amongst other things, it was Fran who kept her then boyfriend informed on the movements of the BNP at the town hall and was instrumental in setting up an unsuccessful ambush on election night. What do you know about the unsuccessful ambush on election night?
I don't know. I don't even know what election night that refers to. Again, this was, I can't remember where I picked this up. Obviously, with a connection to Metcalfe, it probably would have come from Metcalfe in that respect. But, I don't know. Obviously, it would be significant if it was an ambush on the election night that she was elected to, candidate for the council, no, she wasn't. She was a Labour Party member. I don't know what that was, but you see, Metcalfe was often prone to exaggeration. And he had, obviously, I'm not doubting he knew this person, but he did have a tendency to embellish their credentials at times. But I wasn't in a position to sort of dispute that or argue it. I just wrote it as I was told. And
so can I take it from that you have no sense of what sort of ambush we are talking about?
No, I don't know. No, I don't know.
So it might have been an entirely lawful one?
It might have been an entirely lawful one. It might have been complete rubbish. Who knows? It came from the mouth of Mark Metcalfe.
And from your point of view, no restriction whatsoever about reporting on an elected councillor from the Labour Party?
No, hoover it up and put it into the office.
Fran is still trying to pass on any information Ray BNP activity sponsors, etc. in her post in Hackney. De Beauvoir being a favourite target seat in the past for the BNP and Vic Dooley. Any assistance you can give us on what sort of information was being passed on?
I don't know. No, no idea.
To whom?
Again, no idea.
For what purpose?
I could speculate, but I have no idea.
Any feedback from managers about this report?
No.
Could we take it down, please, from tab C266, MPS 30s 1935. This is a report dated the 31st of March 1999. It's about the National Civil Rights Movement. If we could have the first 3 paragraphs, please. Give you a moment to absorb those.
Okay, yeah.
The second paragraph, first of all, Michael Mansfield, King's Counsel's anti-police rhetoric. Mm-hmm. You were there, were you?
I think I was, and looking at this, yes, I must have been there.
And what did Mr. Mansfield say that fell into your definition of anti-police rhetoric?
I can't remember his exact words, but he was a well-known character, and particularly amongst police officers for being not particularly pro-police officers. That was the general consensus on him. I can't give specifics about what he said.
It's a barrister who tended to act on the other side of litigation involving the police.
Yes, but pretty much so, yeah.
Would it be a fair characterisation of what Mr. Mansfield was saying to say it was focused criticism of police misconduct?
Well, that may have been. I don't know. I can't recall what he said, but obviously that was my general impression of what he was saying. There was nothing new there. He said what I'd have expected him to say.
Turning to the third paragraph, the steering committee is expected ultimately to decide the direction of the movement. The look of despair on chief organiser Suresh Grover said it all. The hope of steering anything smoothly looks remote. Can you help us with the events which caused you to describe Mr. Grover in those terms?
I can't remember the specifics of this thing, but I think looking at this report, there's the National Civil Rights Movement. Obviously, Suresh Grover was at the head of that. But looking at what I've written here would be that, you know, again, you're getting a situation where a perfectly legitimate organisation was potentially going to be infiltrated, for want of a better word, by extreme left-wing groups. And I think looking at that, it was my perception that he looked quite upset about that. That's all it was, just my perception of him at that time.
It's fair to say this was an extremely well-attended event, wasn't it?
Yes, I mean, there was a lot of people there. It was an interesting thing. Yeah.
A limited number of volunteers there?
I can't remember.
Is what happened a fair summary of what happened, that from the hundreds of people who arrived, a steering committee, large steering committee of 60 was formed so that they could have a separate meeting to continue the debate in a smaller number?
I think if I've written that, then yes, that's what would have happened, yeah.
Can we have the last paragraph of this page, please? In the long term, this group has a potential to publicly embarrass the police with its media-friendly aura. Although keen to distance itself from violence and public disorder, it has and will continue to attract violent elements willing to use the publicity and media window to incite violence, particularly against the police. Can I be clear, please? The National Civil Rights Movement was an organisation that was expressly non-violent and against public disorder. Is
Correct.
that right?
Yes, correct.
And its potential to publicly embarrass the police, did that arise from its potential accurately to identify police misconduct?
Yes, I think so.
And that the violent elements were people that this organisation would disown?
Yes, I think so. Again, we're looking at left-wing, extreme left-wing influence.
recall what it was that caused you to describe Suresh Grover as running the movement in dictatorial fashion?
I don't recognise that expression at all. Again, I haven't written this, but that's certainly, I mean, I didn't know Suresh Grover. I'd not met him, but I'd seen him in action in meetings, and I would certainly not describe him as a dictatorial type of person. He struck me as being quite a mild-mannered person. So I don't know where that's come from.
Can you help us with what you meant by white left-wing groups who are only too happy to be seen being politically correct? It's in the second paragraph.
I'm thinking that's just whether the white groups or the left-wing general groups there, happy to be seen politically correct. Again, I don't recognise that. I don't recognise that phrase, actually. I don't think it's something I would have used, but I think there's been more, the inference there had been that they'd be just happy to go along with that, whatever line that it was dictated by their position on the NCRM, but I wouldn't, that's not I wouldn't have used that politically correct. That's meaningless.
Again, this would have been written up from...
It would have been written up from the handwritten notes from me, yes.
And only too happy to be seen being politically correct is very cynical, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, I don't recognise that at all.
It was, in fact, the position that these activists were appalled by the racist attacks and murders that there had been and the failure to bring the perpetrators to justice.
Of course.
And appalled that one of the reasons for the failure to bring Stephen Lawrence's murderers to justice was because of institutional racism.
Well, that was the allegation, yes.
Well, it wasn't an allegation by this stage, was it? It was a finding of a public inquiry.
Yeah, that was the finding, yes, yeah.
Is there a suggestion in this report that the far left were being performative in their support?
In what respect? Performative?
Towing the line just to be politically correct.
What, putting on a face, an acceptable face, do you mean?
Being cynical. There's a cynical twist to this report, isn't there?
Yeah, I think when you're talking about left-wing groups going into a movement like this, they're always vying for supremacy and looking to take it or influence it. So they will go along with, they'll see which way the wind's blowing and try and affect it that way. So yes, that's what is meant by that.
Can you help us near the end of the report? While sounding laudable, there is little doubt that the hidden agenda is to further weaken Black Asian community trust in the police and to highlight their perceived weakness in dealing with racial crime. What was the basis for that?
Again, this is not language I would use, but the sentiment essentially is that, I agree with the sentiment there. Yeah, the aims of the organisation is that these smaller groups that were being attacked or certainly under pressure from racial crime and that, they weren't capable of trusting the police in terms of, I think the police were trying to go out of their way to say, we are changing, you can come and speak to us and all that, because that was not to be accepted at all. And I think the NCRM were going to fill that space effectively, thereby cutting out the police.
Perceived weakness in dealing with racial crime. As I mentioned a moment ago, this post-dates the findings of the Stephen Lawrence inquiry about the very serious failings in the investigation of Stephen's murder. What acceptance by this stage had there been that Stephen's family, to put it mildly, had a point?
I think they certainly did have a point. That was accepted. I don't think there's any question of that. As such, the son had been murdered, and he hadn't received the proper attention of the police in investigating that. I don't think that was in dispute at all.
Why is the word perceived weakness used then?
I think in that, well, because you're looking at a general, not looking at the Stephen Lawrence campaign specifically in that, but I can look back to the time that I was in the Colin Roach Centre where there was lots of allegations about police misconduct that people would, Metcalfe would tell me that people were coming in complaining of all that. But of course, there was no, there was no trust in the police to deal with any of these issues.
So would now be a convenient moment to take the afternoon break.
Certainly. How are we doing to finish this part of the evidence?
We'll certainly finish this part of the evidence this afternoon, sir.
Yes. Very well. 10 minutes? 10-minute break.
Thank you, sir. Could we have back up MPS 301935, please? We looked at this earlier. This is the report on the National Civil Rights Movement's meeting on Sunday, the 28th of March, 1999. Could we just go to the second paragraph of that, please? It's reported there that Stafford Scott's address consisted of a thinly veiled threat of civil unrest and public disorder in respect of race attacks, and the role played by him in the Broadwater Farm riots of 1985. His oratory was greeted with enthusiasm. Can you help us with what Mr. Scott said?
I can't remember exactly what he said, but obviously he was a known figure, and looking at that, he was obviously referring to his experience during the Broadwater Farm riots, but I don't know what the specifics of what he said. No.
Mr. Scott's written evidence to this inquiry is strongly to deny that he threatened civil unrest or public disorder, and to the effect that he has always gone out of his way not to do so. Might there have been a sensitivity in your listening to him speak on this subject?
A sensitivity based on a prejudiced approach to...
Your concern that it was an attack on the police?
No, I don't think that's the case. And if he says it's different, then that's fine. I'm not disputing what he says, but that, looking at that now, that was my perception of it at the time.
Can we take that document down now, please? And can we have up from B64 526 897? Can we go to page 2? This is an authorization for deployment of undercover officers in the special duty section, and the paragraph 1.1 refers to your deployment. Could we have paragraph 1.1 expanded? Give you a moment to absorb that.
Okay.
Were you aware that a system had been put in place to authorise SDS deployments?
No.
Did you play any part whatsoever in the authorisation of your deployment?
No.
It says that the justifications are that from the inception, RA and AFA have been at the forefront of public order situations, primarily as a means of disrupting right-wing activity, public order. By this stage, was it still the case that the streets were essentially quiet because the far right had been driven off them?
In the sense that it comes across there, yes. But say, I've never seen this report before.
And we've had your evidence about the support of terrorist organisations. Did your managers consult you at all as to whether there'd been any change in the position leading up to this assessment?
No, they didn't.
Thank you. Could we take that down, please? Could we have up from tab B45 749 473, please? Page 14. And if we could have that, thanks, a file note dated the 21st of March 2000. The bottom it bears HN58, HN53, Noel War and Bernard Greeny's initials. And if we look at the first 4 paragraphs, please. This is said to be arising from a meeting between you, Sergeant Tiddy, Sergeant Beales, and another, which was convened to discuss Red Action, AFA, and the IWCA, the leading personalities within the groups, and current and future strategy. Can we have a look at the second and third paragraphs in particular?
Yeah, okay.
And we get the sense of what you've been telling us, namely that the right were off the streets and the battle lines were becoming more about political campaigning.
Yes.
And the third paragraph, again, paints a picture that the public order threat was much diminished.
That's right, yes.
It then goes on to deal in paragraph 4 with a number of personalities, and it identifies 3 people, 2 of whom we've ciphered and 1 of whom we're not naming at all, as worth further work. Can we say, first of all, would this dates from March, the authorisation we've just looked at dates from January. If you'd been asked in January about your deployment, would your answers have been substantially different?
I don't think they would have been, no.
And then at the bottom of the page, in relation to the individuals, could you help us as to why you thought that those 2 or 3 persons would be worth further work?
Let's just remind myself. Well, in both of those cases, as I've said before, they are significant personnel in Red Action, and similarly, particularly in the case of Jamie, you had very good contacts in Northern Ireland. And again, I'm coming back to it, this was a stage where there was no real idea of what dissident action on the mainland would be. So I thought that these 2 people in particular were worth looking at.
The bottom of the page, the last paragraph, says the meeting was also a very useful tool in bringing TS up to date on general matters and gossip relating to other squads. 20 hours a month of overtime caused a slight flutter. Could you explain what that was a reference to?
No idea. And I can imagine who's written this report, because there's a similar tone in other reports around this time from this same person. So I don't know. It's very sort of frivolous in the language, and I don't know what that means. In relation to the general matters and gossip relating to other squads, I can only imagine it was something to do because I was going to be finishing in a year's time, to give me an opportunity to decide where I was going to go. But I'm speculating there, and again, this is a question really for the author of this report.
Well, just to remind you of the date, 21st of March 2000. This is very shortly before the end of your deployment.
Oh, right, I see. Right, okay. And that, well, I stand by that. Then that's still a relevant sort of.
Well, the overtime, is this a reference to the fact that the amount of overtime you were likely to get post SDS was going to be a lot less?
I think that's what it looks like, yeah. But of course, the author of that is obviously obsessed with finance. It certainly wasn't an issue with me. It had no option.
Could we take that down now, please? Can we have up from tab B68 526894, please? And to have page 3, please. And then if we could have that expanded. This is a branch note dated the 11th of April 2000 to address the subject of the termination of your operation. I'll give you as long as you need to orientate yourself to the document, but I'm interested in paragraph 3 and 4.
Okay.
First of all, the assertion that it was after 18 months in AFA that you were invited to join Red Action, that's factually incorrect, isn't it?
It is,
because we've seen the report that it was
is,
not until 1998.
Correct.
And the assertion that Red Action slavishly followed the stance of Sinn Féin, is that accurate?
No, I mean, I have said previously, yesterday and today, that the Red Action followed a model by Sinn Féin, but slavishly. I mean, again, this is a whole language. I've not seen this before. This says more about the author of it rather than the subject matter, I would suggest.
And so far as Pat Hayes is concerned, he was released as a result of the Good Friday Agreement, wasn't he?
Correct, yes.
In terms of the 4th paragraph, which addresses public order, it says, during the past year, AFA street activity has been low. Again, how accurate is that? I've been getting the impression it was for longer than that.
Well, certainly, yes, it probably was. It dwindled down, but it was low for that year, but yes, it was dwindling prior to that, certainly.
Thank you. I am going to move now, if we take that down, having been through chronologically, your deployment ends in April 2000. I'm going to look at some specific topics. The first thing I'd like to explore with you is your involvement with Brian Higgins.
Yeah.
Can you explain how you first met Mr. Higgins and what you were first interested in about him?
I was introduced to Brian by Mark Metcalfe. I think he'd come along to the Colin Roach Centre because he'd had a grievance, a long-standing grievance with UCAT, obviously the Building Workers Union, because at the time when I met him, I was purporting to be a building worker, albeit not unionised at all. Mark Metcalfe introduced me to Brian because obviously we had a similar, in his opinion, background, so that's when it happened. But that would have been 1995, sometimes quite early on.
Yeah. So you meet him quite early on, and what interest are you taking in Mr. Higgins?
At that stage, you know, I was expected to go to, I was a building worker essentially, and Mark Metcalfe thought it was a good idea to go there because he wanted to show that the Colin Roach Centre supported this sort of trade union dispute that he was having. So yeah, it was a difficult one to get out of, being a building worker myself. But prior to that, the Colin Roach Centre they'd often talk about union, various people were involved in union matters, and I was constantly being asked I should join a union. I wasn't in a union, obviously, because it wasn't necessary. And this was a constant sort of request, which I wasn't keen on. There was no intelligence requirement for that. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be involved in something else. It was a waste of time, frankly. But it was only when I met Brian and went to a couple of his meetings that he agreed, yes, you should be involved, really. And then I can't remember what the time frame is, he became involved in the Republican Forum. That's when my radar went up, and he was a person worth knowing. And on the back of that, of course, the whole building, I did join the union, really, because Brian suggested it was a good idea. So I had no compunctions about that. And I kept on side, really, with the building work stuff, really, to keep on side with Brian because of the Republican Forum.
So I'd just like to, we've been over the Republican Forum stuff, so I'd like to concentrate on the other things that you got involved with in association with Mr. Higgins. You became involved in the Building Workers Group.
That's right, yeah.
Can you help us with what you did in relation to the Building Workers Group?
The Building Workers Group were very small. It was obviously Brian ran it. He had a long-standing issue with the union, and if I'm honest, I don't really understand the origins of it all. But the long and the short of it, as far as I understood, it was about the lack of union democracy, transparency, etc., and a blacklisting type of thing. So that was my involvement, was just to go along with him. There was a couple of other building workers that he knew, which I think were involved in Southwark, in the area of Southwark, working for the council there. And that was it. We had a meeting, it might have been once a month or something like that, in King's Cross, which I attended. Anything discussed there that was relevant as far as the Colin Roach Centre was concerned, I reported back to Metcalfe or the meeting on the back of that.
Did you report to the SDS the blacklisting campaigning being conducted by the Building Workers Group?
I think that, again, I was specifically told that there was no interest in the trade union reporting. If I've referred to it in a report about the Building Workers Group, then yes, but I knew there was no interest in it, but I had to put something like that in for context. If I didn't report it, then I would have mentioned it in the meeting.
When you say meeting, do you mean
the SDS meeting?
The SDS Safe House meetings. Yeah. If we could have up the UCPI PDF, please, and once we've got it, page 3. This is a letter dated the 20th of April 1997. Sorry, in fact, I want page 3, I think, should be a letter headed Building Worker Group. That's the one, thank you. So this is a letter, 21st of March 1997. It's signed by you in your cover identity on behalf of the BWG. It's to Helen Shaw and Deborah Coles, and it says in manuscript, inquest about the Building Workers Safety Campaign. I'll give you a moment to refresh your memory of the content.
Okay, yeah.
This is campaigning on the subject of deaths at work, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
You said yesterday that you couldn't remember inquest. Does writing to Deborah Coles of Inquest jog your memory now?
I didn't write that letter.
Why does it bear your signature?
Because, I mean, that's the letter itself was written by Metcalfe, and obviously I just signed it. It was an issue that I had no real understanding or insight of, and I knew that in this case, Deborah Coles was a contact or an associate, whatever you want to say, of the Colin Roach Centre.
And if we go over the page, we have a letter which is from the London Hazard Centre, dated the 2nd of April 1997, to you as a representative of the Building Worker Group, care of the Colin Roach Centre. You can scan the content, but essentially, again, it's on the subject of deaths at work, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yeah.
So was this the sort of thing that you were doing on behalf of the BWG?
I mean, the BWG, I think I was given a position, was I the chairman of it or something, whatever. Essentially it was myself and Brian Higgins, that was it. All of the information and all the writing to these various groups would have been done with Brian, but he didn't want to put his name to any of these sort of things. So me as the hapless the chair of this committee, I was getting this, but these reports would have gone through to the Colin Roach Centre, and of course Mark Metcalfe was onto this as well, but it was that sort of tactic to spread out the responsibility for this thing. But if I'm honest, I was keeping on side with Brian. I didn't really understand the ins and outs of all of this.
Can you recall whether you were reporting this activity back to your managers?
I don't think I would have done. I may have verbally mentioned that I've involved in it in general terms, but again, this was just detailed information which I didn't really have much time for.
Can you help us about the distinction between the Building Workers Group and the Building Workers Safety Campaign? In particular, was the campaign a strand of the group's work, or was it a separate endeavour?
Again, I think it was a separate endeavour, a separate thing altogether, mainly because I think that Brian's involvement with all of this goes back to the 1970s. And so it was way before I was involved, but my impression was they were separate things.
Can we move now to the Brian Higgins Defence Campaign? And can you help us with how you became involved in that?
Again, I was myself and Brian Higgins, and I was the chair of the Building Workers Group, and that's what I was seen as. And that was the Brian Higgins Defence Campaign, as I remember it, refers to his long-running dispute with, I think, certain individuals in UCAT, and the fact that he felt he'd been blacklisted.
Could we take, or stay within the PDF, can we have what I think should be pages 1 and 2, which is the letter of the 20th of April that we saw before? Thank you. This is a letter from Mr. Higgins to you in your cover identity. And if we go to the very top of the page, he's writing to you in the capacity of your being, it is stated there, secretary to the Brian Higgins Defence. And it says C. Does that mean committee or campaign?
I would imagine it's campaign.
So were you the secretary of the Brian Higgins Defence Campaign?
Yes, nominally.
Was there a difference between the Brian Higgins Defence Campaign and the Brian Higgins Defence Committee?
No, not that I'm aware of, no.
And what did you do for the BHDC?
Basically, we can see these, obviously Brian lived some way out of London, so he would contact me and give me these big, long letters about the progress and all what was going on. I generally would have passed it on to Mark Metcalfe and that, because, I mean, you can see how detailed and involved it is. I didn't begin to understand it. And why did I didn't need to report on it, so what was the point? It was, as I say, I was staying on side with Brian, not through the building work. I couldn't pick and choose not to be involved with this and expect to be involved in the Republican Forum.
Did you travel to Sheffield in connection with the BHDC?
Yes, I did. I drove a van up there.
And who went with you?
Picked up Brian, and I think...
Just be careful about privacy.
Yes. I can't remember the names, but there were 2 other building workers.
You've described Mr. Higgins' long-running campaign with UCAT. Was there a complaint made by Mr. O'Brien to the London region of UCAT which result in you being named as a witness in defence of Mr. Higgins?
I don't know. Was there? Honestly, I don't know.
Did you have to give evidence, either in writing or orally, on behalf of Mr. Higgins? Can you recall?
I don't know anything about that at all, no.
Was there any civil litigation in which Mr. Higgins was involved that you were aware of?
Not that I was aware of, no.
Did you distribute flyers at Southwark and at other union events in support of the defence campaign?
Yes.
And I think I may have got your evidence already, but just to give you a final opportunity, if there's anything else you want to add, your purpose in becoming involved in the BHDC was?
To get close to Brian and then access, obviously, to the Republican Forum.
Can we take that down now, please? Can you help us with the industrial desk? Do you recall there being an industrial desk on C Squad?
No, I don't. I know there had been, but I don't recall it when I was there, no.
By the time you were there, who was dealing with industrial matters?
I don't know. I certainly had no involvement. If there was there, I had no involvement with it.
Were you aware that there were people who were?
No, I can honestly say I wasn't, no.
Are you able to help us with with whether information was being passed from Special Branch to industry about people in the building industry?
No, I've absolutely no knowledge of that whatsoever.
Did you ever meet with any contact from industry to speak about intelligence that had been gathered by Special Branch?
No, I did not.
Do you know if anybody else was doing that?
No.
Do you know whether there were relationships between Special Branch and industry in relation to industrial militancy?
At the time of my, no, none at all. I mean, when I heard of this, and obviously I know that Francis has alluded to this, but it just, that stuff sounded like the stuff from the 1970s. It was certainly, I had no knowledge of that. I was completely unsighted if it was there at my time in Special Branch.
Can we move now to a separate topic? We've seen lots of documents which refer to violence. Now I want to take you to some specific evidence that we've had. First of all, can you recall a circumstance in which there was an attack on a pub in Holborn by AFA?
Yes.
Can you help with your role in that?
This was, I think this is one of my first main deployments with AFA. And I was basically one of the foot soldiers. We're going down to, it was regarding the flute band, the band that was being protected by Combat 18. We were going down to try and attack the bandsman, but Combat 18 had apparently gone into a pub just near on Holborn somewhere, and they were corralled in there, and the pub itself was attacked. I saw that, but I wasn't directly involved in that specific attack.
Mr. Metcalfe's evidence is that you instigated and led that attack. Is that true?
That's total rubbish.
That you threw bricks despite being asked not to?
Complete fabrication, no.
And that led to police corralling the people you were with?
There was certainly, we were corralled, yeah. I mean, once the pub had cleared or been cleared by police, we were held, I think we were held in the Strand or something for quite a long time, yeah.
Can you recall another incident in which you were at an Irish social event and there was a drunken, abusive man looking for a fight?
No.
Mr. Metcalfe has given evidence that you assaulted a drunken, abusive man who was looking for a fight at an Irish social, such that he and others had to intervene.
No.
Is that true?
No, it's not true, no.
Was there an incident at a picket when a man sought to cross the picket line wielding a bicycle chain, such that you intervened to protect those that this man was threatening?
No, I don't recall that at all.
Mr. Metcalfe gave evidence to the effect that you saved him and others from injury by this man, and he is grateful to you for doing that.
No recollection, and obviously if that was an incident, then of course I'd remember it, but that's nonsense as far as I'm concerned.
Esther's evidence is that you told her that you'd been involved in fights and came home with cuts and bruises. Is that true?
On one occasion, yes.
Going back to the incident with the drunken, abusive man, this is a man who was standing on a table saying or singing the praises of the Continuity IRA. Does that jog your memory?
No. Does he say where that happened?
The Tut and Shive, Islington?
No, I don't remember that at all. I know the Sutton Shive pub because it was a pub that Red Action met in, but no.
And that evidence comes not just from Mr. Metcalfe, but also from Alison.
No, I've got no knowledge of that at all. I'm not. Why would I want to deny that anyway? Not true.
Did you participate in gluing the locks of premises associated with the far right?
That was a Colin Roach initiative, and yes, I do remember that particular incident.
In company with others?
With one other.
Was that Mr. Metcalfe?
No, it wasn't. He wasn't there.
Was it with somebody we're able to name, or?
No, I don't. I have seen him on reporting, but I'll write his name down.
If you could write the name down, please. Thank you. I don't think I've got any further questions arising from that. We have one more thing I want to ask you arising from the evidence so far today, but it will require you seeing a photograph that's been produced during the course of the day. So that will be shown to you, and then I will ask you about it tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm now, so if you're content for me to do so, going to move on to a completely different topic. Yes. This is a topic of your sexual deception of Alison.
Okay.
You got to know Alison through CRC meetings and social events at the pub.
Correct.
You told people that you didn't drink drive.
That's right.
And that was because you said your father had been killed by a drunk driver.
Possibly, but I didn't drink drive anyway, yeah.
And so you would be able to give lifts to people.
Yes, essentially, yeah.
In the late spring or early summer of 1995, there came an occasion when you were dropping people off, and you dropped her off last at her premises in Hackney.
Did I? I don't know.
I'm going to ask you some more questions about that occasion to see
Okay.
whether you recall. It's her evidence that on that occasion, she asked you if you would, if you smoked cannabis and wanted some.
No, I don't remember that. Oh, we certainly did, but not on that occasion, no.
And you went in to her flat where you did smoke cannabis.
I don't recall that, no, not at that stage.
Was there an occasion where you dropped her off last and were invited into her flat?
I can't remember. I mean, I'm not saying it never happened, but I dropped a lot of people off. When it was, I don't know. But I don't think I'd ever been into her flat until the night of that particular party, whenever that was. I don't recall ever being in there prior to that.
Her account, and I think you've watched her evidence, haven't you?
I have seen some of it, yes.
Was that your sexual relationship began when she invited you into her flat, you talked, you smoked cannabis, you drank whiskey and had sex?
That's not my recollection, no.
What is your recollection of the circumstances leading up to your first having sex?
It was, again, I'm not sure on the dates, but I was invited to a party that she'd organised at her house, along with other people from the Colin Roach Centre. And it transpired later that I was sort of, her friends knew that she wanted to sleep with me. So there was a party that was contrived to get me there and meet her. And then once everyone had gone, we had sex. So it was a genuine surprise. It was a party I wasn't expecting.
First of all, you said her house. She owned a flat.
Yeah, a house. Flat, yeah. It's a flat.
Secondly, what is your evidence as to precisely how you came to have sex?
I think we were at this party, I say a lot of people there drinking, smoking, and at the end, I lived within walking distance of those premises, and I was the last person there. And I think what I found out later, that the other people had made a tactical withdrawal, leaving me with her, and she made a move and wanted to stay the night.
Putting aside for the moment your differences of recollection about how you first came to have sex, she went on to give evidence that she asked if you'd like to do it again. Did she?
Yes, she did, yeah.
When she first made it plain to you that she was interested in you sexually, why didn't you decline her advance?
I was in the role of a single man, new to the area, new to this organisation, and of course, you're unveiling yourself of the making friends with people, and under those circumstances, yeah, of course, I was offered sex and I took it. I was a single fella, and I took that opportunity. Yeah.
You were not following the SDS guidance to avoid sexual activity if you could, and only to have it as a last resort.
I think I think that there's a slight difference here. Is that it was a surprise encounter in that I didn't seek her out for that purpose. It was the other way around, and so I had to make a decision: do I sort of go for it as a single bloke or not? And it was easier for me to say, yeah, okay, and I was happy to go along with that.
Did the fact that you were a serving police officer in the course of an undercover operation influence your thinking at all?
No, not at all.
Did you give any consideration to whether Alison would have consented to sex if she'd known who you really were?
No, I didn't.
If you'd given that question some consideration, is it right that she is likely not to have made the advance or not to have had sex with you?
Well, I think I've said in my statement originally that probably not, but it just wasn't a consideration that I was given. As far as I was concerned, I was Mark Cassidy, a single bloke living in Hackney. I believe that.
Were you sexually attracted to her?
I think on that, On that first occasion, when you offered it, yes, she was an attractive woman. Yeah, I wouldn't say that she wasn't at all. No.
Pause a moment, please. It is very important that this evidence is given clearly and without interruption, and noises from the back prevent that from happening. So please keep quiet. Sorry.
Alison's evidence is that after the first occasion on which you had sex, at the next weekend that came up, you went for dinner together at an Indian restaurant. Is that
We
right?
may well have done. I don't remember. I certainly saw her again the following weekend. Yes.
And she asked you about the subject of monogamy.
Well, I don't recall that. No.
Can you recall a conversation about monogamy?
No.
Her evidence is that she made clear to you that that was what she wanted, a monogamous relationship.
That's not. I don't recall that at all. But I do remember her saying that she was actually seeing somebody else at the time that she was seeing me. So that sort of contradicts my recollection of that. No, I don't recall her mentioning monogamy at all.
You go on to have a sexual relationship with Alison until 2000.
Correct.
Did you understand her to believe that that was a monogamous relationship?
With me?
Yes.
Yes, I think so, yeah.
What is your recollection of the boyfriend that she said she had at the time she first met you?
But who he was? I mean,
I'm not too interested in who he was. What I'm interested in is whether your understanding is that that relationship came to an end.
Yes, it was coming to an end and she was going to finish it.
So your understanding at some point in time, fairly early in the relationship, is that Alison is a woman who wanted a monogamous relationship.
I didn't really consider that, no. I'd no idea how long this was going to go on for, but no, I've no recollection of her using that particular phrase, monogamous, but no, I don't. Again, these were sort of early days and I had no expectation of it going anywhere.
Let's not constrain this question to time then.
Okay.
Was it your understanding that you were in an open relationship with her, or was it your understanding that she thought she was in a monogamous relationship?
Yeah, I think I probably felt the same as well, yeah.
Can we start with how she felt?
Yes, yes, if we're not taking time into yes, of course, yeah.
And everything she said and did suggested that what she wanted was a loving, monogamous relationship.
Eventually, yes.
What do you mean by eventually?
Well, okay, we're not talking about time, and these are sort of the early days. It wasn't. It was just a pure sexual relationship that developed over time. And then it became apparent that, yes, that was what she wanted.
By approximately when did it become apparent to you that that was what she wanted?
Probably within the first year.
You said that you regarded it as monogamous as well. Can you help us with that?
Yeah, I mean, from my position, obviously the whole issue about sex had sort of come quite early on in my deployment, and I wasn't prepared for it in that sense. But I did feel that if I was having a relationship with somebody, then it would mean I'm not having to worry about anybody else. So monogamy suited me because there would be no other approaches or anything like that at all. I was in a stable relationship, which certainly suited me from my position as a undercover officer.
Suited your deployment?
Yes, yeah.
Because, of course, the truth was it wasn't a monogamous relationship, was it? You were married.
Yes, but Mark Cassidy wasn't.
And you were a married man with a family.
Yes, Mark Cassidy wasn't.
And so you were deceiving her not only about who you were, but also about your marital status.
Of course, I'm in the business of deception.
You continued the sexual relationship. Why didn't you stop after that first sexual encounter?
As I said in my statement, at that time, it's sort of looking around the flat. The place I had was a bit of a tip, and I was having problems with contacting contacts. I had no phone, etc., etc. Suddenly, there's a flat in an ideally located part of the area that I was deployed in. Had a landline, and it was a legitimate address. It was absolutely perfect. So yes, there was an attraction, as far as I was concerned, to the property and the opportunities that involved, and it was an opportunity that I took.
We'll come to your move into Alison's home in due course. Before we get there, you've made the decision to keep on having sex with Alison, haven't you?
Yes, I have, yeah.
And you were having regular sex with Alison and quite often staying over at her flat, weren't you?
Yeah, like once a week, I suppose. Weekends, I think.
Was it more than that?
I'm not disputing. She said it's more. My impression was, because of the nature of her employment, weekends were generally the better time.
So my question to you is, after that first sexual encounter, why didn't you stop?
I didn't want to. I didn't need to, and I was quite happy to keep it going. I also noticed that it was said yesterday that my demeanour when I was at the Colin Road Centre came across as quite surly and, I don't know, not aggressive, but a bit unfriendly. I did notice that subsequent meetings, because the whole membership knew about this, that I was received a lot more warmly because of it. So I think, I was trusted, I think.
Why do you say that you didn't need to?
I didn't need.
You said you didn't. You said you didn't want to stop and you didn't need to stop. Why didn't you need to stop?
Because, again, there was a lot of benefits there. I was obviously access to her. It was being in a relationship, for me at that particular point in time, was a good cover. It was very good cover. And that's why, I spotted an opportunity in those early encounters and exploited it.
So there was no question of you following the guidance to make any relationship fleeting and disastrous?
Ridiculous, no.
Alison's evidence is that the relationship developed to the point that within weeks you were staying there most nights, sharing her bed. Do you dispute that?
Well, I don't recall that, no, because, as I say, until I actually moved in, whenever that was when I was staying. Longer than that, it would only have been weekends. That's my recollection. So if she's saying it's earlier than that, then yes, I would dispute that.
She was on the contraceptive pill and you used condoms initially.
As I recall it, yes.
And then you stopped using condoms, having told her that you had been tested for HIV.
Did I? I don't know. I don't recall saying that, no. I hadn't been tested for HIV.
Did she inquire about your HIV status?
No, not in my recollection, no.
It was a time when it was a much more threatening, life-threatening condition than it is now, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Are you sure that she didn't want to ensure sexual health before abandoning the use of condoms?
No, I don't recall that at all.
If she'd asked you, would you have said you had been tested?
No, why would I do that?
I think you've given evidence earlier to the effect there were very few barriers in what you should do to advance your
Yes, but I
deployment.
mean, it's not just her sexual health, it's my own as well. I certainly wouldn't, why would I lie over that? That's why I don't recall this conversation at all.
Did you raise the question of HIV with her?
No.
So why raise the question of your sexual health now?
Because you've mentioned it in relation to hers, but I was always looking after myself. You know, I was very aware of my own health. I mean, before I was deployed, the SDS had given me I had a course of injections for nothing to do with HIV, but it was hepatitis B. That paid for by the office, and that was again I think that was in case I came into contact with anything nasty. So yeah, I was completely aware of that in that perspective, but I was equally completely aware that I didn't have any diseases of that nature because I've been completely faithful to my wife for years.
What consideration did you give to the risk of fathering a child with Alison, including by accident?
Well, it was always a concern, obviously. I certainly didn't want that. But I think when she said that she was on the pill, yeah, I trusted her. And yeah, that was fine.
You're a police officer.
Uh-huh.
Deceiving Alison as to who you are.
Yes.
Even with contraception, it's not guaranteed that there won't be a pregnancy, is it?
Okay, yeah.
Did you give any consideration to the possibility that you might find yourself in the situation of fathering a child in your undercover identity?
No, I didn't.
Did you give any thought to what the consequences of getting your life entangled with Alison's might lead to?
When it was, I made it, before I actually moved in with her, I'd spoken to some other SDS officers about moving in with somebody in my particular field. That went via circuitous route to Bob Lambert, and the advice that came back to me was just to be very careful and aware of the amount of time that it will take living with one of the activists.
I'd like to locate that conversation in time, please.
It was before I moved in with her, which I think we went to the Colin Road Centre, went to the Glastonbury Festival, which I think is at the end of June, because I was driving people up there who were working there. And I remember all the activists who I was taking up that were met at my house, including my flat. And it would have been after that because my belongings, etc., were still in that flat.
Are we talking June 1995?
Yes. So it would be, and I think that festival is usually at the end of June, so it would have been possibly early July.
If we have up B45 749473, please. And if we could just look at, it's really the top half of the page. This is a summary about you, and under the question address, it says Alison's address, ground floor rear, from the 25th of February 1996, and then gives financial details. Rent deposit, £126, rent £3,300 per annum, poll tax nil. Was the 25th of February 1996, or a date very close to that, the date that you actually fully moved in to Alison's flat?
No, I'm pretty sure it was 95.
Alison's evidence is that it was within 2 days of this date, the 23rd of February 1996.
I thought it was earlier than that. And that's the thing. The reason I can remember that was because of that trip down to Glastonbury.
Was there, in fact, a formal moment in which you moved into her flat, or was it a case of your staying with her so frequently that you were effectively all but living with her before then?
No, I think one of the issues with this, which sort of brought it into focus, was the fact that I was paying rent onto that flat in Osbaldeston Road, and it was suggested, because of the lack of communications, etc., to that address. I'd spoken to Metcalfe about it, and he said, "Well, why are you paying rent? There's people there, and Alison being one of them, who might, be able to get an address somewhere else and pay far less rent." So it seemed to be, that was the sort of indication for it. So there's no reason for me to move in with her and keep paying rent on an address in Osbaldeston Road.
Your original bedsit, was that on a 12-month tenancy?
No, it wasn't even that. I think it was they were monthly, as I recall it. It was a very sort of what was described fairly dodgy sort of arrangement with a landlord and a landlord's agent who was living in a flat nearby. So I would pay my rent weekly, but I think with a month's deposit, and I needed to give a month or two's notice to move.
So, having seen these documents, coming back to trying to locate in time the conversation with your two colleagues about the wisdom of moving in with somebody in your undercover identity.
Yeah.
What's your best recollection of when that was?
Well, it would have been before, in my recollection, before July 1995.
I don't want you to identify the people you spoke to, but I just want to be clear, first of all, whether you approached them or they were sent to speak to you.
Initially, I sounded out one of the individuals there that I knew, just for advice.
Did you say that you were contemplating moving into a flat with Alison?
Not specifically Alison. I didn't mention that. As activists, it was the way I described it.
Did you communicate that you were intending to move into a property of someone with whom you were having a sexual relationship?
Not specifically, no. But I think, again, by inference, I think that reading between the lines, that was what was understood. If you're moving in with activists, it was a euphemism for that, and I think that's how it was taken.
Can you help us with what makes you say it was understood to be a euphemism?
Because, again, sexual contacts were never spoken about openly within the SDS. But I think in this particular instance, the inference was, given the history and other people, as it's transpired, have been in this position, were aware that if you're living with activists, as I had described it, then the chances are, there will be a sexual element to that. But at that time, I just left it really as being activists, So I was in a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week type of arrangement.
Did you speak to D.I. Lambert?
Not directly about this, no, but the people that I'd spoken to had spoken to him.
In the initial time that you were in a relationship with Alison up to the end of the summer of 1995, is it right that she had a lodger?
Yes, it was, yeah.
A friend of hers.
A colleague, yes.
But then that colleague left.
Yes.
And a very brief period of time in which that colleague's boyfriend stayed as well.
That's correct, yeah.
But after she had gone at the end of the summer of 1995, it was only you and her using the flat.
Correct.
And that position didn't change for the rest of your deployment.
Yes.
Management run checks on UCO's accommodation, don't they?
Well, I don't know, but you certainly have to declare where they are. I don't know what checks they would do, no.
And so when did you declare to your managers that you had moved in with Alison?
When I moved in, so that would have been the summer of 95.
So why does the document we've got up on the screen say the 25th of February 96?
Absolutely no idea. No, I can't explain that.
Could we take that document down now, please? So when you declare the change of address, did you declare it to?
I don't know who it was, but I think it would have been either one of the DIs or one of the DSs. I can't remember who it was specifically, but obviously they'd have to update my contact details.
So can we assume that you having told at least one of them that they would have told others and your managers within the SDS would all have known that you were moving?
Yes, yeah, that's a fair assumption.
And from your experience of being in the back office and from going through the process of preparing for a deployment yourself and speaking to others, is it your evidence you have no idea whether or not managers ran any checks at all on your accommodation?
I didn't know, no. I think possibly the initial ones, to make sure it was suitable, that when you first went out, but thereafter, no, I wasn't aware that checks were done.
Did your managers make any checks on Alison's flat?
I don't know.
You said that you didn't want to stop the relationship. Was that because, from your point of view, it offered a number of both personal and professional advantages?
I'm not sure what the personal advantages were, but certainly professional advantages, most definitely, yeah.
Alison's flat, it is right to say, did have a landline telephone.
It certainly did, yeah.
Your Duff address, your original Duff address, had a phone in the premises, didn't it?
It had a payphone in the lobby of Bedsit. That payphone was only you could make calls out, but it wouldn't receive calls.
So you were able to call the CRC if you wanted to?
Yes, but they couldn't phone me back.
And there was an activist, Mr. Metcalf has said, who lived very close to that address.
Sorry, Mr. Metcalf said that somebody...
There was an activist who lived just across the road from you.
Oh, did he? Okay, I didn't know
and that. And on occasion he got that person to contact you.
He may well have done.
So there were means of contacting you at your original Betsy.
Yes, I mean, but when I first first deployed, I got involved with a couple of groups, anarchist type groups initially, and they had tried to contact me. They knew what my address was, basically to see that I was a real person. And one of the blokes, he said, "Oh, there's no phone number here. Can I come and see you?" And of course, I can't say to him, "Well, you know, I'll come around at such and such a time when I'm in from work. You've got to be available, so well, sometime in the evening or whatever." And he'd come round a number of times, knocked on the main door, and apparently pushed a note twice. Certainly on the second occasion, I got a note shoved under my door by one of the residents to say that he'd called and could I contact him again. So yes, there were issues with that, and I think Metcalfe had similar sort of issues. He couldn't be sure that I was actually living there, whereas the fact of it was, yes, you could put a note through there into the main lobby. Whether I'd actually see it or get it was, you know, it wasn't guaranteed.
How much of an issue was communications to you at the time?
It was a big issue, yeah.
Is it right that Mr. Metcalfe suggested that you move in with a male activist to save rent and to be more contactable?
No, I don't recall him saying that. He did say to me, though, he did offer, you know, if I was stuck, to come round to his place, but that was the last thing I wanted. But I don't remember him suggesting another male activist, no.
In any circumstances whatsoever?
Not that I can recall, no.
If you had needed better communications in 1995 to further your operation, there were a number of steps that you could have taken to do that, aren't there? A number of alternative solutions to that.
Rent a very expensive flat, potentially, with a landline. It just wasn't credible with the type of person that I was purporting to be. So no, it wasn't practicable at the time. And as I say, when I met Alison, here was something completely ready-made, and it was an opportunity that I wasn't going to squander.
You could simply say to people, "You're out at work a lot, leave me a note, or if you want to come and see me, I'll be around at such and such a time, or I'll be popping into the CRC on such and such a day."
I could do, but it's not credible. Remember, this is not, I was targeted against an individual in a community. It wasn't a big organisation, so I was actually living amongst these people. We're talking a few hundred yards from individuals who I hadn't met at that stage. So, yeah, it wasn't, I couldn't just rent a flat miles away or say to them, "Could you pop round when I'm home from work?" Didn't work like that.
Well, you were a builder in the 1990s. You couldn't afford your own landline. People would expect a builder in the 1990s to be living in a bedsit, wouldn't they?
They would expect that, yes, of course. But also, some of the builders in the early 1990s had great big mobile phones. I certainly didn't have the means in my legend to have that sort of contactability. And it was important to remain credible, you had to be accessible.
If you weren't able to think up any other way of doing it, you could simply have spent a lot of time in your Duff address, couldn't you?
It's still inaccessible on my own. It just wasn't feasible to stay at that Duff address.
Why not?
Because you can't. Again, you need to be accessible with people. If I'm in and out, going to work or whatever, people need to get to me. Metcalfe, he didn't really have a proper job. Shoving a note through the door at that stage just wasn't an option.
You spent a great deal of time with Alison, didn't you?
I did.
You could have spent a great deal of time in your bedsit instead, couldn't you?
Well, why would I do that? Because Alison and the setup she had everything I wanted, as far as I could see, for a longer term use.
To avoid a deceitful sexual relationship?
I wasn't interested in avoiding a deceitful sexual relationship.
Could we now look at B45 749 473? page 12, please. This page has a diagram top left with underneath it Alison's address. Then we've redacted a map of the area of Alison's address. Says it's a ground floor rear flat, and it has an emergency contact for Mark Cassidy, mobile and numerical. Can we start first of all with the mobile? Can we take it from that you had a mobile phone by the time this document was created?
What, I don't know when this document was created. When was it?
That is going to be my question of you.
Yes,
when was this
that wouldn't have been
document created?
I would say 96. I would say that's roughly the time when I'd have got hold of a mobile phone.
96.
I think so, 1996, yeah.
Numerical pager? When did you have a pager?
Why did I have one?
No, when did you have a pager?
I bought that one when I was at, I was still in Oswald Deston Road, so that would have been sort of early 95. The reason for that being that obviously I couldn't afford a mobile phone. Metcalfe was moaning that he can't get hold of it when he needs to. And so I bought this thing, and it was essentially just, it was like the thing that doctors have. You cost about £1 or whatever it was to make this a bleeping noise, and that was it. I think it gave. Did it give a contact number or something? He couldn't, and he moaned at the fact, I can't leave a message. I can't remember how the thing worked, but that was a way of.
So you did, in fact, have a means of him contacting
you? Yeah, at the time,
you.
but he complained that this is no good. If I want to leave you a message, blah blah blah. So yeah, I was trying it because it was the next thing, the best thing up from nothing.
Who drew the diagram of Alison's address?
I don't know, but I mean, from the detail, I must have done it, but I don't remember doing that. But certainly from the detail given there, it must have been myself.
The electronic file in which this was found is dated the 5th of August 1997. It doesn't necessarily mean this particular document was generated then, but can you help us? Is it likely to have been generated in August 97 or at some earlier time?
I would say it's some earlier time because, again, that numerical pager, I had that for a couple of months, I think. That was always 95.
Could we expand the diagram, please? There was a front door, an internal door to the flat as marked, wasn't there?
Let me just orientate myself. Yes, yeah.
If this is produced after you've got a mobile phone and therefore 96 onwards, by this stage it is just you and Alison sharing the flat, isn't it?
It would have been, yes.
Room 1, that was the living room, wasn't it?
Correct.
Could we have up 37912, please? Is that the living room?
That is the living room.
Could we take that down now, please? Sorry. Could we have now back up the plan 749473, page 12? If we could have the diagram expanded again. Room 2, that was the bedroom you shared with Alison.
That's correct, yes.
Bathroom, self-explanatory. Room 3, was that a small storeroom on study?
Yes, that's where the previous tenant had been staying, yes.
But not by the time you drew this.
No.
Communal kitchen. That was where the kitchen was, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Wasn't a communal kitchen, though, was it?
No, I don't remember writing this. That's not my writing, but it certainly wasn't a communal kitchen, no.
Why doesn't it say living room instead of, and say room 1 instead?
I can't explain that, I don't know.
Whose writing is it?
I don't know.
This diagram does not represent the actualité, does it?
I don't know what you mean.
It is not a true and honest depiction of the property. If it was, it wouldn't say communal kitchen, and it would say living room instead of room 1 and study storeroom instead of room 3.
Well, very possibly, but the layout is accurate. But no, I mean, the language used there, no, that's semantics, isn't it?
Well, it's not semantics, is it? Somebody is trying to present this diagram as a depiction of a collection of bedsits, when in fact it was a 2-bedroom flat that you shared exclusively with Alison.
Absolutely right. I would not dispute that at all. No.
So in drawing this diagram in this way, somebody is trying to deceive somebody else, aren't they?
In that respect, yes, but why? There's no secret I was staying there with her. It wasn't a bedsit at all.
Well, what I would like to know is who is deceiving who.
I've no idea. I don't know.
Are you deceiving your managers as to the nature of the premises that you are staying in?
I wouldn't say that, no. Obviously, they didn't know of my sexual relationship, but they knew the place that I was staying in, yes.
With Alison?
With Alison.
Are your managers trying to ensure there is no paper trail which would show that they knew that you were living in a flat with Alison?
I don't know.
So would that be an appropriate moment to adjourn?
Certainly. My understanding is that we are making sufficient progress to be reasonably confident of finishing tomorrow.
We are, sir.
Yes. Good. Until 10:30 tomorrow. I'm sorry, until 10 o'clock tomorrow. Wrong time.